Hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Knock Knock Hi with the Glockenfleckens. I am Dr. Glockenflecken.
I am Lady Glockenflecken.
Will and Kristin Flannery here, and we're so excited to have you join us. This is circled on your calendar.
Yeah.
For a long, long time.
Yes, this one is a very special episode to us and to me, and near and dear to my heart because it's a little different than usual. We're not speaking to a healthcare professional this time,
but someone who has definitely been in the healthcare system in a very unique way.
That's right.
As someone with ARFID. We're talking about ARFID.
Right. Auto-restrictive food intake disorder. And the reason that is something that I am excited to talk about is because I'm excited and I'm a little nervous to put this out there, frankly, because it is something that I suffer with as well. So I've had it my whole life. It's been very difficult. And I've had a lot of negative reactions to it. So putting it out on the internet is a little bit scary, but I believe in you, Glockflock. You guys are always very... very supportive and nice and wonderful people. So be kind to me.
You want to give people a rundown of what ARFID is?
Yeah. So I have to start by saying, like, when I was growing up, there was no name for this. There was no one studying it. There was no knowledge about it whatsoever. And I'm super, super glad that has changed over the years. And now we have this name for a disorder. As I said, it's auto-restrictive food intake disorder. And a lot of times I think it is classified as like an eating disorder, but it's more accurately, I think, to think about it as a feeding disorder because it has nothing to do with your body image. It has nothing to do with feeling like you need to lose weight. It is actually a food phobia. So it's that, like I don't look at food. I've always said, I feel like something in my brain is broken, right? The thing that identifies, here's a thing in the world that you should put in your mouth and eat, and it will help sustain you. Like what other people classify into that box, I do not put into that box. It would be as if, if you put, I don't know, name a food, just anything.
So hard for you to
name a food. I hate food. If you
Shrimp
were to put...
scampi.
Okay, shrimp scampi in front of me. First of all, I would probably promptly vomit. But secondly, that does not look like food to me. It's like if you were to put a rock in front of me and say, "Here, eat this," or some grass or something. Like technically, I guess you could eat grass, but no one wants to. It's not appetite.
Probably
so that's
cause a bezoar in your stomach.
Probably. I don't know. But anyway, so that's my relationship with food has always been very fraught and tricky, and it is the if I could change one thing about myself, it would be to either not have ARFID or to be able, I've said from a very young age, I wish that I could just take a pill and have all my nutrition that way. Yeah, right. To just not need to eat would be my fantasy.
Kristin's the kind of person that in the Matrix movie, how all they in like the real world in the Matrix, they have this like slop that has all of their ingredients that the human body needs in one
the Soylent variety
Soylent type thing.
Yeah.
Like Kristin,
but I want it in a pill. I don't want to even have to taste the slop.
But Kristin sees that and is like, they're onto something.
They are.
And that's not something that
it's not normal,
average person
quote
thinks
unquote.
like
yes.
that.
And I wanted to point out too, since we do have, our audience is largely healthcare professionals. And so I wanted to give a little bit of kind of healthcare context around all of this. There are, apparently, I learned this is new information to me. There are apparently 3 types of ARFID. One is a lack of interest, a genuine lack of interest in eating and in food. And people with this also get full quickly. I feel like I have that. Do you feel like I have that?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I'm always eating your leftovers.
Yeah. And I just like forget to eat and I don't care about food. It's like a chore to have to eat.
Yeah. Well, you don't feel like you have to eat, except there are a lot of our conversations and logistics and planning is around food.
Yes. And we talk about that in this episode, right? Because it's around, ultimately it's around avoiding food, but needing to have food to live. That's a really problematic conflict every single day. Okay, so that was the first type. The second type, sensory avoidance. These people have issues with food tastes, textures, temperature, and smells. I feel like that definitely applies to me.
You have like what, all of those?
Yes.
Is temperature a thing?
Yeah, because like certain things should be cold or should be hot, and if you switch it, it's
like
disgusting.
you couldn't eat cold pizza.
I have a harder time with cold pizza. I can eat it if I have to, but
okay, gotcha.
it does sort of. I'm not excited about it. And then the third type is fear of aversive consequences. So fear of illness or choking, nausea, allergies, that sort of thing can give you a food phobia. I don't know if I have that type so much. I definitely have a.
You have a fear of throwing. You don't like.
I do have a fear of nausea and throwing up, and when I think about food, I'm feeling it right now even. And in this episode, I even had to take a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I get this feeling in my throat, like that I'm about to gag.
I mentioned feeding asparagus to her by hand to mouth.
But
hey, here I am doing it again. Sorry.
I do. I mean, as you can see right here, if you're watching.
So we also.
You can hear. I have a physiological reaction to it. Like I really start to. I do feel like I might throw up or at least gag. Like that it is physically happening. So
we also are. We recorded this interview with Andrew shortly after Thanksgiving. So we mentioned Thanksgiving dinner, and which, by the way, is a comfort for you and probably a lot of people who have ARFID because there's a lot of beige.
Lots of beige food. I'm good with beige food. Most of the things that I can eat that feel like safe foods are some degree of beige or very close. Yeah. Like, bread and dairy and things like that.
A little bland.
Bland things. Not too much flavor. Right. Yeah.
So very fascinating conversation.
And it's an important thing to know about because it affects so much of your life. Especially because in our culture and in our society, food is such a big, like people get offended if you don't eat their food that they've prepared, right? And people get really excited about food and they want to share it socially with people. And so to be a person that rejects food, people take that very personally a lot of the time. And so it becomes this really big problem socially, right? You get a lot of negative social attention as a person with ARFID, and you learn to just sort of hide it about yourself. And we talk about little tricks that we have for doing that. And so I'm really excited that we're talking about this today, and I hope that it helps spread some awareness.
Well, let's talk about our guest.
Let's do.
So this is Andrew Luber, better known as ARFID Andrew on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. He's gained a sizable following, just exposing himself with his friends and family to new foods.
Yes.
And it's fascinating. It's funny. It's informative. Definitely check it out. ARFID Andrew. He's also a screenwriter. He's working on a movie. We talk a little bit about that at the end. And just interesting, definitely a fascinating conversation about ARFID and some of the interesting things that come up in life as someone who has this disease. And so I hope you guys enjoy it. Here he is, Andrew Luber, aka ARFID Andrew. Today's episode is brought to you by DAX Copilot from Microsoft. To learn about how DAX Copilot can help you reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, visit aka.ms/knock-knock-hi. Again, that's aka.ms, like Microsoft, /knock-knock-hi. All right, welcome, ARFID Andrew. Can I just call you Andrew? Is that good?
Yeah.
All right. So we're so excited to talk with you. I think Kristin.
I've been waiting a long time.
She's been waiting a long time, ever since we found your social media presence. And I have a quick question right off the bat here. How was Thanksgiving dinner? Did you survive it? Are you doing okay?
So Thanksgiving dinner was actually pretty good. I'm making a movie right now, so I'm like pretty preoccupied and stressed out in making this movie. So I wasn't even hungry just because of that.
Yeah.
So I was maybe I'm giving myself an excuse, but the white meat chicken that I ate and is pretty good. So I mean,
I did see.
Yeah.
I saw the TikTok you made of trying the different. First of all, I love the Thanksgiving glasses you had on, the drumstick glasses. Those are great. But also, I just, you did pretty well trying the different foods. That was great. The chocolate covered strawberries gave you a little bit of a challenge.
Oh, strawberries.
Yeah. Oh, like the texture, it's very freaky. It's very freaky.
It
but
is.
I like strawberry jam now though. Like I think it's great. But the strawberry itself, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, the flavor is fine. It's not the flavor or the smell, it's the texture and all those little seeds. It's like little alien pods. Just like why would you put that in your mouth?
It's so intimidating.
Yeah.
I don't know very many people who would describe it as alien pods.
I mean, that's what it triggers for me. Yeah, right?
Same here. Yeah.
I watched your video where you tried a pomegranate and you said something similar about like the inside, like it looks like food from Mars. And I was like, this guy gets me.
I mean, I would never think like whoever first discovered these foods, I would never open and be like, oh, that pomegranate, that looks edible. Like it would never come across my mind.
Exactly. Thank you. I have been saying these things my whole life and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. Like it just doesn't seem like food. Food doesn't seem like food. It doesn't seem like something you should put in your mouth.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like, because knowing you, Kristin, who is, I think you have like an undiagnosed ARFID.
Oh, I for sure have it. I've just never, there wasn't a name for it growing up. So like I've just never, no one knew about it. I didn't get a diagnosis. No one knew about it. But when you read, the criteria and stuff, it's like, yes, that is definitely me.
Let's do the criteria. Just so people have us.
Okay, Andrew, do you don't know it off the top of your head? Or you want us to pull it up?
There's like medical criteria now for like what defines this disorder.
I would say there's a medical criteria, and then I have my own criteria that I would say is more suitable for like the everyday individual trying to understand. So like coming from that perspective, if you shape your day around where you're eating and what you're eating, you have ARFID. Like if it's an anxiety in the sense that you're literally organizing yourself according to that, then you have ARFID. It's like pretty safe to say you have ARFID, I would say. The medical understanding of it, I mean, sometimes I say it wrong, but it stands for avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So it's on a spectrum, and some people literally avoid all foods. Like I know this girl Cassidy, she has her own page. She's way more restrictive than me, where she just restricts herself and doesn't eat. Where for me, I avoid a lot of food groups, and I plan my day around avoiding them. So there's different people have different relationships with food that ARFID accounts for.
Right. What was it like growing up? Like, when did you or in your family know that, okay, this isn't, you're a typical journey with eating?
Yeah.
Pretty much since when I was a baby. It was very difficult for them to get me to eat, like in general. And I would freak out and cry and throw up a lot. Not to get vulgar, but
No,
that's right.
I mean, our audience is mostly healthcare professionals. They've seen a lot worse than vomit, let me tell you. So it's fine. No, but I was the same. It was hard to feed me because I would just spit everything out. Yeah.
And then there's a photo that Kristin has of her asleep at the dinner table, because
it's not a photo. I just remember this, like a flashbulb memory burned in my mind of they tried the parenting tactic, right? And I feel bad for my parents. Like, it is hard to be a parent of a person with ARFID. I get it. And they were doing their best, and they just took advice from their parents, which was, if she's not going to eat, then you just leave her there until she eats. She can't get up from the table until she eats. And so, you know what? I fell asleep at that table that night. Like, no, I'm not going to eat it. Like, it's not stubbornness. It's not a defiant act of a child, right? It was just like, I cannot eat this.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather starve, literally.
Yeah. Do you recall if there was like a trauma event, or like if your parents told you there was this time where when you were a baby, you like ate something and you threw up and you like sat in it or something, or I don't know.
Right.
You know?
No, there was no big trauma. I just always
sounds
was
like you have
that.
something though.
Yeah. So I have a story that my mom tells me, whether I myself can tell you if it's true, I don't remember, but this is what my mom says.
Yeah.
So like my relatable story, well, two things. My parents would try to make me eat something, and I'm a very dramatic person, like in pretty much every facet of my life, especially when I was a kid, and I would have hissy fits to a whole nother level, and like they would maybe put me in my room or do anything. It just would persist. Like, it doesn't matter what punishment, or like for them to get me to calm down. I would freak out, cry, throw up, like shake, act like I'm sick, just to not be near the food.
Yeah.
Essentially. So like my parents at a certain point had to like just give me food that I would eat, because otherwise it would just be constant hissy fits. Now, the story that my mom tells me is her friend, a good family friend of mine, brought over banana and rice baby food. And apparently I ate it and then went to sleep, and I threw up all the food and I sat in it.
Oh.
And I was crying apparently, and she didn't get me for a while. And then when she did, she saw that I was like hysterical with food all over me. And she said, ever since then, I just treated food differently when I was a baby. And I think that's also like the origin of like why bananas are like number one thing for me.
Is it the taste? Is it the texture? Is it both? What is it that
the texture's awful
that gets? Is there like a breakdown of like 90% texture, 10% taste? I mean, can you?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a banana before, so I couldn't tell you.
Except that
like
time.
If it's
or really with any food, really. Like, what is it that kind of sets you off more for like hating something or being unable to eat something? Is it it the taste or texture or something else?
I think so. I think it is I think it's all of those.
Yeah.
But I think what's more initial than that is there's this orientation that I have, this idea of food that just literally makes me want to throw up.
Yeah.
So it's like the idea of food itself.
Yeah,
that
food
makes
is
me
gross.
Okay.
Yeah, but the weird thing is the foods that I do like, I love. Like, I'll binge eat goldfish.
Yeah.
Like if you give me goldfish, like those big boxes that you get at
got
a
one
grocery
in my pantry.
Gone in an hour. Gone in an hour. And it's not good because then you get double chins like this. But then,
what else?
Yeah,
what else is on your list
of foods that I will eat?
Yes.
So like sorry.
I was going to say, first of all, I would imagine it's a short list.
So it was a short list.
Yeah.
But I've been pretty persistent about this for a very long time. I just started really posting about it and getting like really active in my exposure and trying to expand my palate the last like 5 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Or so. I forget when exactly I started the TikTok.
So let's start with what was on your list before you really started trying to expand. And then I want to get into that because I am not there and I don't know how you get there. So I want to talk about that too. But let's start with what was on your short list.
Okay. So there's two eras. I would say there's like pre-college and then post-college 20s. Pre-college, it was pretty limited to filet, like random things. Filet, shrimp, mac and cheese, peanut butter and jelly, roast beef and cheese sandwiches, and like chocolate chip cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's basically it.
How about French
And like
fries?
French fries, like basically chicken, like white meat chicken, and bacon.
Yeah.
Bacon, like even pulled pork and that kind of stuff. Like it was very iffy on. Like if there was no, from an aesthetic standpoint, if it was
Mhm.
presented in a certain way, I would be able to eat it. But it was like very context dependent.
Mhm.
Then in college and like in my 20s, more so when I was like 2021, I started getting into fish. So I eat all fish besides like salmon now.
Wow.
Interesting. I was going to say
and the-
your pre-college years, shrimps was that
that
was
stood
a
out
bit
to
of
me
a
too.
curveball.
Yeah.
I was not expecting
Yeah.
you to say that.
Yeah. I don't even know when exactly I started eating shrimp. I think I was like probably like 14 or 15. I like my dad would trick me. My dad would try to trick me a lot. Same with my mom, but my mom was less successful. My grandma. So like there were things that I would eat that I had no idea that I would eat. My mom would make me chocolate chip cookies, but there were raisins in them secretly.
Yeah.
Or there were like
Mm-hmm.
ground up carrots
Right.
secretly in it. So like my parents would try to like, conceal what I was actually eating.
Right.
At times.
Okay. And then so
Yeah.
go back to after college, what
Yeah.
you expanded?
So like I started eating fishes, and then I would say like 4 years ago that they were like I could get it on a weekly basis, but it took time. Like there's different stages. There's like, oh, it's edible. I can actually swallow it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that doesn't mean I can like eat it on a regular
Right.
basis. So like that, to get it to a regular basis is like repetition and making sure that the food is presented in a similar context and that it looks similar to how I was able to eat it that initial time.
Even hearing you talk about that I'm having like heart palpitations, and like this stresses me out so much to think, because how did you get it to where you could even put it in your mouth to try it?
So there were certain like social pressures.
Yeah.
Like I'm a single guy. I go on a date.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I have to like.
Yeah, you're very motivated
like,
to hide this thing.
Very motivated. Like there's been plenty of times I remember, like especially in my early 20s, I would go on a date. I would like try. Here, try a bite of your food. I'll be like, okay. I like put it in my mouth, and I'm like,
You're so
and then I'm
good.
like, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I'll go to the bathroom and just spit it out.
Yep.
And be like, and then come back to the table and be like, acting like nothing happened.
That food was so good. I just had to take a break from the table for a second, just collect my thoughts.
I would do that with the napkins, right? Like just pretend like I'm wiping my mouth, and really you're spitting your food out into your napkin
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Great move right there. Classic.
Well, so what did you before we get into like I want to get into your TikTok presence and kind of what you're doing with exposure and everything, but growing up and even up until you started this TikTok channel, what did you, I'm sure you probably heard, and because Kristin's heard this all her life, is that, oh, you're just a picky eater.
Yeah.
And there's a clear difference here. I want people to realize that between like quote unquote picky eating, normal childhood picky eating and ARFID. This is a totally different thing. Did you struggle with that perception from people growing up?
They would call it picky eating, but they would be like, oh, that's like, people will call me my last name, Luber. They would just be like, oh, that's just Luber being Luber. So
Mhm.
like, again, I'm like very dramatic. So like when I was in middle school, like my friends would chase me around the cafeteria with food.
Mm-hmm.
And like at the time, I would just like play into it
Right.
because I'm like recognizing from like a social cue standpoint, oh, I'm providing entertainment for the situation,
Mhm.
i.e., I get friends
Mm-hmm.
because of that.
Right.
So people thought I just was like very dramatic with my picky eating, but like everybody kind of knew
Mhm.
that like I had this weird, or they would just say a weird relationship with food. I would say people that aren't like outwardly dramatic about it and expressive about it, I totally can see how people could just say that's simply picky eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But again, people knew that I would plan like where I would sit at my lunch table. Like if someone ate a banana at the lunch table, which was a very common thing in like middle school and high
Right.
school, I would literally position myself the opposite end of the table.
Mm.
And like if I couldn't, I'm sitting at a different table. And like people knew that.
Yeah.
So like
It's interesting to hear about not just the presence of
Mhm.
food at the table, because I don't get the sense from you,
You
Kristin,
don't?
that
Think about any time you try to eat seafood around me.
Yeah, maybe that's the only thing though. But I just haven't. It hasn't been a big thing where like I can't eat something like in your presence. That's not very common. Like if we go out
I
to
would
dinner or
say it
something.
happened. I
Like
mean, it doesn't sound like it's very like his was bananas, right? You're specifically
it was
bananas.
hard boiled eggs,
Oh, those
like
are
the smell
gross.
of that. Like
Mm.
it was for sure smells.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
so I totally get fish if it's from like a smell standpoint. That was a hurdle for sure, which we'll get to. But yeah, it's some people are really good at concealing it, and I think that's also part. I
Mhm.
think if you have ARFID, you should be very extroverted, like in a way where people like know, because in that sense, it's going to be hard to like distinguish picky eating, and it's also going to be harder for you to like fit in socially because they just won't know. Like I think transparency is like the best.
Yeah, self-advocacy to stand, and it's awesome that we have this framework for it now. That didn't used to exist. There was no name. People didn't know about it. People didn't understand it, and so there wasn't anything that I could say, "Hey, I have this disorder. You know, here's what it is." So it was really, and I did just get very good at hiding it. And to your point, I think girls are probably socialized even more so than boys to just sort of go along and not make a fuss, right? So I'm just very good at that. But there are certainly times like I'll sit at the table, but I'm not going to look at people eating a certain food, right? I'm going to do other things to try to avoid.
I think the first time I noticed that there was something. I always knew you were there. You didn't eat a lot of different types of food. Like I'm talking about when we were dating.
Yeah,
and
like
first
a
getting to
million
know
years
each other.
ago. Yeah.
But the first time I knew that she was like truly like this was a whole different animal
Mm-hmm.
was whenever she would always get at Taco Bell, she would get like bean and cheese burritos.
No, it's a taco.
Oh, tacos. Bean and cheese, soft tacos.
You're getting it all wrong.
They were soft tacos.
Beef and cheese.
Beef and cheese. Oh, beef and cheese.
Yes.
Beef and cheese soft tacos. And one time she was able to find in her taco these
with my mouth. Like I took a bite.
She pulled out the smallest little insignificant piece of lettuce that had found its way into her taco. And like I was like, how on earth did you know that was there?
So I tasted it and it was disgusting.
It's like I could not believe.
Sixth sense.
I could not believe it. And then like is some kind of a super tasting something going on?
I am a super taster as well, which I don't know. Andrew, do you know, do those go together? Like more than in the average population?
Oh yeah. And the second I taste it, it's done. It's ruined.
Yes.
Can't even touch it.
Yeah.
Like it's like I remember I got like Shake Shack and they put no, it wasn't Shake Shack. What was it? I forget the place. I got a cheeseburger and there were pickles on it and I took a bite.
No.
And just a little glimpse of like the evolution for me.
Yeah.
Like I remember like must have been like 7 or 8 years ago. I got a bite and I just was like I was so hungry and I was like freaking out. And I'm like, I can't eat this.
Yeah,
I'm done.
yeah.
Now I have to buy a whole nother thing. And I was broke, and it was just like very annoying. Then while I'm like 2 weeks ago on set, same thing. But because of the journey that I've been on, I was able to just take the pickles off and then eat the cheeseburger. And I would
That's
taste
huge.
the aftertaste.
Because
like,
yes, pickles are
strong.
yes.
And I was able to overlook it. And I remember turning to like my writing partner, Alex, and being like, dude, I can eat this. And he's just like, that is crazy.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning of my partnership with him, he would just eat a lot more food because they would get my orders wrong. And then it would just be passed off to him.
Man, that sounds
So
awesome
many.
for a food lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do, right?
That is what I do. Yeah. All right, let's take a short break. I'll be right back. Hey, Kristin.
What's up?
It'd be great to have.
$1 million.
Sure, but also a little bit of disability insurance.
That would be.
We kind of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, both of them, because you got testicular cancer twice and then had a cardiac arrest. And now you're basically uninsurable. But I love you anyway.
Yeah, it does make it a bit harder. And it's disability insurance is something that every physician needs to have.
It's true.
Because our job, our bodies and our ability to move our bodies are so important to the work we do.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you about Pearson Ravitz.
Tell me.
Yeah, this is a company founded by a physician, Dr. Stephanie Pearson, a disabled OBGYN who has now dedicated her career to helping physicians avoid similar oversight to, us.
Very important work.
Exactly. She's helped over 6,000 physicians get disability insurance. To find out more and get a free one-to-one consultation, go to Pearson Ravitz. That's PearsonRavitz.com/knock-knock. Again, that's www.pearsonravitz.com/knock-knock to get more information and protect your biggest investment, you. All right, we are back with ARFID Andrew. I like that. I like your name, by the way. It's great. ARFID. It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
It's a great social media name. It really is. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the impetus. What I'm sure your personality kind of lends itself to a social media presence because you're so outgoing, you're extroverted. But tell us the origin of ARFID Andrew on TikTok and social media.
Yeah, so I actually started taking videos of myself doing exposures about like 5-6 years ago with my writing partner, Alex. And I just didn't have the courage to put it online. It wasn't until I saw, I don't know if you know My ARFID Life, this 8-year-old girl, her name's Hannah.
Yeah, I've seen her. Yeah.
When I saw her doing it, it was during this liminal time in my life where I started making this film, and I'm a screenwriter, and normally I like prolifically writing, and I didn't have time to write and do the movie, so I was like, okay, I still need to produce content, and if this girl can post herself doing exposures, then I can do it too. And the only difference is because I'm very self-deprecating as an individual, I wanted to lean into the comedy aspect of something that for me, like phenomenologically, is very serious.
Yes.
It's like the way I experience
terrifying.
it. Right. It's super terrifying. So having that juxtaposition and tension, I thought would make great content. So I was like, screw it. I am just going to do it and see what happens. And that's kind of what brought it about. It was just having this period of time where I was like, okay, I need to still make content, and I think this would be good content while I make this movie. And
so
now
you put your
turned into a whole
own,
thing.
you put your own social pressure on yourself. Like you're putting this out there for the world to see. So you'd better try it.
Yeah. And it is funny. I will say, like, I feel bad for you sometimes because you're clearly anguished, but you do lean into the comedy aspect of it. And honestly, just seeing you like put something on a plate, you can see the anticipation And you're just like
stresses
under
me
your
out.
breath. You're under your breath. You're like, oh god.
I know, and I can feel. I know exactly what you're feeling
Chest
when you're
tight,
doing that.
heavy,
Yes.
It's like, oh man.
palms clammy.
I was watching you. I was watching your video where you tried a pickle. I think in this
Yeah.
video you weren't. Maybe you. I don't think you were able to try it. Maybe I can't remember. But the
Nah.
pickle was the thing. And
Yeah.
I was just watching it, and even watching you, like my friend turned on her, like she started videoing me watching you because I was having such a strong reaction to even the thought of like trying a pickle
God.
of all things.
That day was horrible.
Yeah.
That day was absolutely horrible. I was out of commission for the rest of the day.
I
was
don't
getting
blame
the spins.
you.
I was
Yes.
seeing spots.
Oh
I
my
just
God.
went home and literally fell asleep, like
Yeah.
right on the couch. Like it was like a trauma response.
shut
sleep,
down.
not like a literal shutdown.
Yes.
Like I sat in my car. I was like, I can't drive home yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like laughing at myself. Here's the weird thing. I'm so upset. There's part of me that's like looking at me and I'm like, this is ridiculously funny
Right.
that I'm responding like
Yeah.
this.
Right.
And it's just such a weird position to be in.
Right. What's
but-
on your Mount Everest of foods? Like, give us like
Well, a banana sounds.
like banana. Obviously, that's like probably top, right? That's the peak.
Yeah.
Like, what else is like? It seems so outlandish that you'd be able to even put in your mouth, much less swallow.
Yeah. Even the thought of thinking about that is
Isn't
like,
it awful?
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that was one thing that I realized where I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like, it's a good thing that I'm like having the social pressure that makes me want to try more. But it's
Yeah.
like thinking about all the things that I had to try. I was just getting panic attacks after panic attacks.
We
at
don't
the
want to give you a
beginning.
panic attack.
No, you're you're fine. You're fine. So on my Mount Everest, it would be bananas. It would be like a pickle that I
Mhm.
learned. I didn't realize I was going to respond that strongly to a pickle.
Look at me, he's twirling his hair. I'm putting
Yeah.
his
I'm like tensing up. It's awful.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make
No,
you
you're
guys
good.
tense up.
You're good.
Like even when I start thinking about it, my brain
There's got to be some
starts to
kind of
shut down.
We
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
even mentioned the name of any vegetable so far.
I know. I was going
on
to
this
say, how
podcast.
about broccoli?
Okay, so broccoli is one of those interesting cases where it has to be cooked and presented in a certain way
Okay.
for me to eat it.
Mhm.
So I'm not at
Okay.
the place of broccoli where it's like fully on my regular diet.
Yeah.
But like if it's like I've had broccoli where they like smash it and they put like a little olive oil, chili flake on top, some salt,
Okay.
I'm like a little pepper. I'm like, that was good. I
Okay.
like it. It was crispy. Like
There you go.
if it's broccoli that's not crisp and if it's big broccoli, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I like broccolini. That's something new.
Oh,
Okay.
All right.
a little smaller.
Yeah.
A little smaller
yeah, like-
dose.
Right. But with the Mount Everest, it's like honestly very hard for me to even
Think about it.
think about it, which is crazy. But yeah, like
What was one of the? I guess what was while doing this TikTok channel? What was like? What sticks in your mind as one of the more difficult attempts?
peach.
Peach.
was
Mm.
Really?
Peach was wild. Yeah. Oh my god. And
It's so fuzzy.
it's so fuzzy,
And
it's
even
so
on the
gushy.
inside, it's got the little like
It's got a big
filaments.
Pit. It's got a big pit in there
you know?
too.
Yeah.
Oh
see?
my god.
And
Mm.
then it's gushy. Things that gush out are hard.
Yeah.
Things that have
definitely.
a strong gush. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't do the
Because
gush.
then it's like a huge
Okay.
like hit of flavor
yeah.
Yeah.
all at once is just
Gushers.
scary.
Gushers were never your thing.
gushers aren't really food.
Dude, I like gushers. though.
I like
That's the weird
gushers
thing.
too because it's not really food. It's just like
Right.
sugar.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Cucumber. Cucumber is also
Okay.
definitely a big
That's
one
a big one.
for sure.
So what is what kind of reaction? Tell me about the reaction you got from your as you started building an audience on TikTok, putting these videos out there. Was it about what you expected? Were people like, "What's wrong with this guy? Like, why can't he just eat the food? Like, because sometimes social media audiences can be a bit harsh. So talk a little bit about that, the reaction you got.
Yeah. So people thought I was joking.
Mm-hmm.
People thought it was like a farce. Like they couldn't tell if it was like real or not. And honestly, I was just like, I wanted that reaction at first. Like I wanted that because to bring actual awareness to ARFID is to throw its legitimacy into question. So it's like the ironicness of it all is if you just come out being really serious, this is what ARFID is. People are going to kind of just like brush it over.
Yeah.
But if you actually position it such that it's a question, then they have to investigate and explore it, and it draws their attention in versus just like throwing it in your face and like, this is serious. Because what happens when you just say, this is serious, look at this, people are like, oh, I don't care, this is not serious or relevant to me, and I'm just going to overlook it. Like the ironic thing happens.
Nobody wants to be lectured to. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be lectured. People want to have a self-discovery. So like an unfolding, a drawing in, where it starts with an initial question of, to me, is this legitimate or not?
Yeah.
Or is this guy trying to make me laugh, or is he trying to like show me something that he's dealing with? And then what they find when they actually explore it, it's both.
Yeah.
Spoken like a screenwriter, right?
Exactly.
Here.
I was this.
But it totally makes sense because that's like what I do.
Exactly.
With the I'm making these comedy videos about the U.S. healthcare industry. If I just were to tell people, about this terrible thing happening in healthcare, less people would be interested in it. But if you make it funny, like you said, draw people in, you're going to get a bigger audience. And I always kind of relate it to tricking people into learning something, right? And that's essentially what you're doing for ARFID, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I dualistically, I wanted to showcase my ability to make content too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because before this, I didn't have social media. Like I was very much a Luddite in a certain sense, where I'm not very technologically savvy, and all I would do is just like read philosophy books and screenwrite, and that's it.
Yeah.
And like I have a theory on good entertainment, good content, and I thought me using myself as a case study could showcase that I have an actual approach that works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
do you? So social pressure sounds like it's been a big one for you to expose yourself to new foods, but I don't know. Do you have other tips? Like I can't do that. I'm not there yet. Like that sounds terrifying. I would rather do anything else, probably including death, than try some of these things. So I don't know. Have you learned any tips along the way to get somebody to where they can try, some exposure therapy on themselves?
Totally. I would say if you have a good friend foundation, like for me, it was not just family, but really my friends. My friends are what motivates me to try, because I'm never alone when I try. So I would say the first tip is never be alone. Put yourself in a room where the spotlight is on you trying. So like, even if you don't have a social media presence where the social media presence is providing that spotlight, I would say what's stronger is having like
people you care about.
That care about you in the moment, there in person, where they're like, you could do it. And it's just like not your family. Because there is something like corny where it's like mom and dad, come on, you can't get up from the dinner table and do this.
There's too much baggage.
Right. Way too much baggage. But if your peers are doing that, then you're not totally inclined in the same way to reject like you would with your parents.
Yeah.
So I would start with that with one tip. Another tip is figuring out a way to present the food that makes it look desirable to you.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out a certain situation or a certain context where you can position the food for you to eat. That's a bit trickier because obviously going into it, it's not like, oh, if Zeus came down and presented the strawberry to me, then I'll eat it. Like it's nothing
Right.
like that. It's kind of like you kind of just have to keep throwing yourself out there, and like eventually like a food with a certain situation will reveal itself and you'll be like, yeah, I'll try that. Like for me, sushi was one of those where I was at the sushi restaurant. I only eat sushi where it's like the fish is on top of the rice and that's it. Like no rolls. I can't do rolls. It was like I was out to dinner with my great uncle and he got sushi and there was just something about the environment and the way he was eating it. I was just like, can I try a bite? Like I actively wanted to try it because there's something about that situation that afforded me almost that ability to try it.
Right. It was comfortable enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like you have to have a certain level of like wanting to try things. Like it's hard if you don't want to try anything new. You know? Like I don't know how you get that internal motivation to begin with, but I think if you have it, that's definitely very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what maybe we can do, because listening to what Andrew's recommending, let's get you just real comfortable, like maybe in in front of a nice fire in the fireplace, like cozy, get you really like in a really nice situation, and then I will feed you asparagus.
He comes in the room.
Yeah.
Comes in the room, shirt off, looking great.
Yeah.
Hey, honey.
Yeah.
Try this.
What do you think?
Asparagus.
It's
I feel like I'm about to gag just even thinking about like I feel it in my throat.
Let's not associate me shirtless with asparagus. I don't think we want to do that. All right, let's take one more break. I'll be right back. Hey, Kristin.
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of Demodex mites.
Uh-huh.
You know, the eyelid mites?
Yeah.
They're on your eyelid?
Uh-huh.
They're just right there in your eyelid?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, what if they flew at you?
Oh, God.
What if they jumped? What if they jumped? Would that bother you even more?
Oh, it'd be even
worse. Would that
worse.
be better?
Jumping bugs are always worse.
Well, I have good news for you. They're not jumping. They don't jump at you. But they are there, and they can cause like crusty, flaky, itchy, red,
that's not
irritated eyelids. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you're a little bit grossed out.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It's a disease. It's called Demodex blepharitis.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like no fun.
Well, but it's pretty common, and a lot of people don't really know about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, these they are kind of cute. I gotta admit, just a little cute.
Maybe a little cute.
Regardless, you shouldn't get grossed out by this. You should get checked out.
Okay.
All right, go to eyelidcheck.com for more information. Again, that's EYELID check.com to get more information about these little guys and Demodex blepharitis. All right, Andrew, a couple more things. Have you been noticed out in public because of your
I really am.
We got...
Woo! Just give me a minute.
I feel you. I'm sorry about that.
No, it
was my fault.
It was him.
Now, great.
Okay, I thought about it too much. I went there too deeply. Okay.
I'm just making it worse.
I get it.
Okay, I'm better. Go ahead.
But what I was going to ask you, Andrew, is, as you've been posting these videos, have you either been noticed out in public? Have people like, oh, you're the ARFID guy? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, a lot now.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of what they say is like, hey, you're that guy that's scared of food.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, great. I'm that guy now.
Scared of food.
But yeah, I mean, I would say it's just funny when there's people that are like freaking out and want a picture with me when I'm just like doing food exposures. So just there's like, a couple stories where like I'm with, like, I was at a bachelor party in Vegas, and I'm with people that I'm from Philly. A lot of them were from Philly, and like they just haven't seen me really since I did the TikTok, and they didn't understand, I guess, how big I became with it, and like people were coming up to me and they're like, "Holy cow! I can't believe it. That this girl wants to take a picture of you," and I'm like, I've no idea, but
There you go.
it's great that people are recognizing me as this guy that's scared of food, in the sense that it's bringing awareness to ARFID.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, I know somebody like you.
Yeah.
And like having it be like a household concept, even if people don't know that it's ARFID, like the term ARFID, just the familiarity is key, because that's what will help people understand people that are suffering from it. Because like I had that. I had people that understood, even though they would make fun of me and we would make jokes about it. There was this baseline understanding of like, I have this issue that's not just picky eating. It's like, and that's really the goal of my account. So yeah.
That's cool.
I love that so much. It makes me a little bit teary because, I think, I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm guessing you're younger than I am. And,
28.
Okay. Yeah, quite a bit. So I'm 40. And I can tell there was a difference in what the world was like for me versus you. Right? Like the level of acceptance that you have experienced is greater than the level of acceptance that I experienced, which is amazing. And then it seems like now, even 28 years later from you, it's growing and you're contributing to that growth. And I think that just makes such a huge difference in humanizing this issue for people like us, right? And making life a little bit easier for people that have this really weird, bizarre, but very difficult thing to contend with every day. So I'm so glad you're out there doing what you do. And I hope you continue for a really long time.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, let's talk.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you working on?
So the film is called The Hunt, and it's actually a lot about how one identifies with themselves, and how it relates to a society in which they don't agree on its identification. So like, I'll just give a quick one liner, but basically it's a world. It's called The Hunt. It's a world where there's only wolves and sheep. And we follow a main character who is a lone wolf who's trying to get into a wolf pack. And in order to kill more sheep, because you could kill more sheep in a pack than you by yourself. And the more he tries to get into the wolf pack, the more the world and others don't recognize him as a wolf. So he's at this crossroads where he sees himself as a good wolf trying to get in a wolf pack. And the world sees him as literally not a wolf. So he has to make a decision on like, how am I going to assimilate myself into society? And basically the film goes down this hole of what identity is. And identity, basically the way the film understands it, is always in relation to what your fantasy is. So how you fantasize about your future self and where you're going to be shapes your current identity. So it's like identity is kind of the moment, it's just a moment in time of yourself. And he ultimately realized he's just wearing a mask, that he's not actually a wolf inherently, and that underneath the mask is this void of possible identities. And in this world, it's only binary, where it's wolf or sheep. So he essentially picks choosing to be a sheep, knowing that he's going to get killed, and choosing that over being this like voidless nothing, because it's better to be, basically the message of the film is, it's better to be assimilated into society, even if it's with a identity that you don't fully initially desire, because that initial desire is always situated in some arbitrary fantasy that you come up with. Then again, this is for the film. So it's better to be something than nothing.
Mhm.
And it to ties with ARFID, it's like when I was in middle school and I'm running around being chased by a banana,
Mhm.
I had a choice where it's I can either assimilate myself in the situation and find a way for me to have a perspective in which I'm happy with, that it actually meets some fantasy that I construct for myself. And that fantasy was to have a fun group of friends. So I was able to position myself where it's like, okay, I'm okay with this identity because I have the relationship where I could have that fantasy.
Mhm.
I could have that be achieved versus me just like not participating at all and just not even having any relation to that particular fantasy.
Yeah.
So that's like a quick gist of what
Yeah.
the movie's about. I'm making it with my two best friends, Tyler Crystal and Alex Shandelman, and we're actually shooting it starting tomorrow.
Oh wow!
So
All right.
yeah,
Good luck.
I'm excited.
That's
Thank you.
what a huge
Thank you.
undertaking, and kind of put yourself out there and
Yeah.
make something big like that, a big creative project. That's hard to do. So I wish you the best, and
Thank you.
also
Thank you.
people can find you on social media at ARFID_Andrew on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Definitely check it out. It's fascinating. I think this is an interesting disorder that I think a lot of people are learning about through your channel and through conversations like this. So, we appreciate what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
How was it talking to someone that suffers your affliction?
It's always very emotional for me to find someone else because it's not uncommon,
Yeah.
but it's not frequent that you find someone that has it. Like I think in my entire life, so 4 decades, I've met a handful of people that have it. So it's always nice to run into somebody who just knows, right? Because you spend so much time as a person with ARFID trying to explain ARFID to other people because you have to eat multiple times a day and it's considered a very social activity. So you do it in front of other people a lot. People really have strong opinions about food.
Yep.
And so there's always a lot of questions. So you just spend a lot of your time explaining. It's so nice to meet people that you don't have to explain and you just get it.
Yeah. It's definitely an entertaining social media presence. So everybody should check him out. And let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have any guest suggestions. We're always looking for new interesting people to talk to. You can email us, knockknockhi@human-content.com. You can visit us on our social media platforms or hang out with us and our Human Content Podcast family on Instagram and TikTok at Human Content Pods. Thank you to all the wonderful listeners leaving feedback and reviews. We love those reviews. If you subscribe and comment on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube, we can give a shout out. Like today, we have at Ubialeki. I'm just gonna go with that.
Yeah.
On YouTube, that said about our Wife and Death show, come to Canada.
We would love to come to Canada.
I'm a big fan of Canada.
Yes.
Early adopters of the Glockenflecken
They
brand up
are.
in Canada.
Toronto in particular. We feel a debt to Toronto.
Yes.
So we'll
First time I
try
ever
to
got
figure something
asked to
out.
speak as Dr. Glockenflecken and not as Dr. Flannery. In fact, no one has ever asked me to speak as Dr. Flannery. As it was emergency medicine up in Toronto.
Yeah.
That
In
was
fact,
it.
people are mad when they find out your name is actually Flannery.
Yeah,
They're like, no,
they're not
I don't like
They
it.
don't like hearing my real name.
Yeah.
Full video episodes up every week on our YouTube channel at Glockenfleckens. We also have a Patreon. Lots of cool perks, bonus episodes, react to medical shows and movies, hang out with other members of our little growing community, early ad-free episode access, and our Q&A live stream events, much more. And we have all kinds of food at our at our town halls. Something for everyone. There's no shrimp though.
Mm-mm.
No seafood.
I
whatsoever.
can't have seafood.
She
sorry.
won't allow it. She won't allow it. Patreon. Hopefully that's not a deal breaker for you guys. Patreon.com/Glockenflecken or go to Glockenflecken.com. Speaking of Patreon community perks, let's do a member shout out. Heather B. Thank you. Thank you for being a patron, and thank you all for the shout out. Virtual shout out to the Jonathans. That's what I'm trying to say. Patrick, Lucia C, Sharon S, Edward K, Stephen G, Marion W, Mr. Granddaddy, Caitlin C, Brianna L, Mary H, KL, Keith G, Jeremiah H, Parker, Muhammad L, David H times 2, Kaylee A, Gabe, Gary M, Eric B, Marlene S, Scott M, Kelsey M, Dr. Hoover, and Bubbly Salt.
That's right.
I was struggling at the beginning, but I rebounded.
You got it. I thought I was going to have to like slap you and reset, but
exactly.
But no.
Patreon roulette, random shout out to someone in the emergency medicine tier. Needy G, thank you for being a patron, and thank you all for listening. We're your hosts, Will and Kristin Planning, also known as the Glockoplex, and special thanks to our guest, ARFID Andrew Luber. Our executive producers are Will Flannery, Kristin Flannery, and Courtney Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Editor and engineers Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Binsvi. To learn about Knock Knock Hi's program disclaimer and ethics policy, submission verification, and licensing terms, and HIPAA release terms. Oh man, Human Content did a number on those HIPAA release terms. Just fantastic.
They're delicious.
Best I've ever seen. You can go to glockoplegan.com or reach out to us, knockknockhi at human-content.com with any questions, concerns, or fun medical puns. Knock Knock Hi is a Human Content production.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Hey, Kristin.
Yeah.
You know we love DAX Copilot here.
We sure do.
It's great.
Love it.
Little Jonathan in your pocket.
Yeah.
I know, right?
QC.
Yeah, helping out with admin burden, documentation. And one of the things I really like is it can like organize your notes for you.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this might come as a surprise to you.
Yeah.
Like my notes sometimes like not the most organized.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I could use a little help, and DAX is there to help me with that.
That's right.
While also, by the way, like looking at my patients when I'm talking to them.
I love it when my physicians are using DAX in my appointments because they just have a better conversation and rapport, and it's just a better overall appointment.
And one thing that people might get a little bit concerned about with AI products is safety.
Yeah.
But DAX Copilot is backed by Microsoft's robust like security. I feel great about their security and
HIPAA compliant.
HIPAA compliant. And so it's my patients are safe. I know the documentation is safe, and it's just a great thing.
Yeah. Very helpful.
To learn about how DAX Copilot can help you reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, visit aka.ms/knockknockhi. Again, that's aka.ms/knockknockhi. Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.